We will begin this evening with a land acknowledgement followed by an opening prayer. Nancy?
Good evening, everyone. We begin our meeting tonight by acknowledging that we are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We recognize and deeply appreciate their historic connection to this place. We also recognize the contributions of Indigenous peoples. The Indigenous people have made both in shaping and strengthening this community and our country as a whole. As we gather today, let us honor the land, its history, and enduring legacy of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. May we commit ourselves to the ongoing work of reconciliation, justice, and equity. Please join me in the sign of our faith. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we come before you with hearts full of gratitude for the many blessings you have bestowed upon us this school year. Thank you for the guidance, wisdom, and strength you have provided to each member of the Catholic Parent Involvement Committee. As we conclude this year's work, we ask for your continued presence and grace. Bless all our Halton Catholic District School Board families, our children, and all the members of our school communities. Grant us the wisdom to make decisions that reflect your love and truth and the courage to follow your will. Lord, we pray for our teachers, staff, and students that they may find rest and renewal over the summer break. May this time be filled with joy, peace, and the opportunity to grow closer to you. Help us always to remember the importance of community and the call to serve one another. May we be instruments of your peace and love in our daily lives. We entrust our committee's work to your divine providence, knowing that with you, all things are possible. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Before we go through our updates this evening, we'd like to see if we can have anyone make a motion to approve the agenda unless there are any additions or modifications that need to be made. Thanks, Jerry. And a seconder? Thank you very much, Janelle. Minutes, we have two sets of minutes to approve. The first is from the CPIC meeting on May the 13th. We need a motion from somebody who was present at that meeting to approve those minutes, unless again there are any changes that need to be made. Janelle, thank you. Cherish, thank you. And the emergency meeting that was held on May the 15th, again looking for approval or modifications. Emily to approve, and a seconder. Jerry or Cherish. I'll let Andrea fight it out. It was a tie. All right, and I'd like to formally welcome our newest CPIC member, Angelo, who's representing Oakville. Welcome, Angelo. We're very happy to have you. And with that, we'll dive right into our board update. Nancy.
Thanks, Jen. So the board update from senior staff. So under the pillar believing, we begin the month devoted to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, which for Catholics is a sign and symbol of God's boundless and compassionate love. We are praying the novena to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, praying for the solemnity of the most Sacred Heart of Jesus. There's a featured link on our board's website and all our school websites. The schools are meeting with their parish priests, I mentioned this before, to set the liturgical events for the school year for next year. And each parish, how they work together with each of the school communities is unique to how that parish priest is able to, or based on the size of the community. All schools will have a year-end mass or liturgy and graduation mass or liturgy with their parish priests, celebrating the end of another school year. Under the achieving pillar, students in grade 3 and 6 are completing their EQAO assessments supported by their school communities. Many Catholic school councils provided nutritional snacks throughout the program when the students were doing the assessments. Grade 9 students have completed or will complete their math EQAO before they write their exam. And in May, the OSS-LT was administered, and actually those results are being shared with parents, I believe, later today. Semester 2 exams will be the last 2 weeks of June. Students will be able to review their exams and marks on June 27th, and semester 2 report cards will be sent home electronically the first week of July. There's many activities with our robotics program or STEAM programs that are all wrapping up. Some have already wrapped up, and if not, they'll be wrapping up in the next week. Term 2 elementary report cards will be distributed electronically from June 25th to the 27th. So it's a staggered release, and each school will communicate with their parent community what their date is. Some schools have opted for a paper distribution, and that's based on feedback from their school community. Some schools are continuing with all electronic. Regardless if it's paper or not, everybody will receive an electronic report card. We are getting updates from the Ministry of Education with regards to the financial literacy requirement for students who are starting school for September 2025, and also the adjustment to a STEAM course requirement to graduate. Okay, so all that information, and I think these will be important topics to bring back to CPIC come September, October, so that we can share it at CPIC and then get that information out through the parents, through the Catholic school councils. Under the belonging pillar, the last week of May, we highlighted Canada's National Accessibility Week with Red Shirt Day or a Touch of Red across our schools. We kicked off the month of June with Pride Day or Rainbow Day on Friday, raising the rainbow flag at all our schools and at the CAC. And this morning we had a liturgy here at the Catholic Education Center. June is also National Indigenous History Month, and on June 21st, we'll recognize it as National Indigenous Peoples Day. All of our high schools have welcomed grade 8s into their schools in preparation for September for an evening community event. I know that Assumptions was last week because that's one of my schools, and tonight Holy Trinity. And I know all the high schools are doing that. We have our life skills prom scheduled for next week at St. Francis Xavier, and we look forward to all our graduations, the ceremonies, and the proms that the students will participate in. Many schools have had some sort of a wrap up to the year that they plan with their Catholic School Council. It could be a barbecue, some are talent shows, some are art festivals. Whatever the schools are doing is unique to each school community and done in collaboration with their Catholic School Council. All of our extracurricular sport activities are also wrapping up. We have track and field starting tomorrow. All the municipalities have their Special Olympic events happening. Soccer is still going. Our baseball season, we had our girls at bat program that is happening in some of our schools. So there's many activities, and I'm sure if you're following Twitter or some of the other social media feeds, you'll see all those things. Some of the updates I wanted to bring to CPIC is just around our board budget. So I know many of you do listen to the board meetings twice a month, and you've been hearing about the pressures that we're facing as a board, like all boards in the province. So it's not just unique to Halton Catholic. How we're being funded is tighter than we've been and different costs. So some of the things, I'm just going to give high level, some of the pressures that we're feeling. So there is a reduction in D-Stream funding. So we know that we have D-Stream courses in grade 9 and grade 10. The ministry gave us money for either coaches to train the teachers for D-Streaming. They have cut back on that. So they've cut back like $1.9 million to that funding. So we don't have the coaches any longer, okay? Classroom resources, even with inflation. So the rate of inflation for September 2024 is 40%. And so we're underfunded because of inflation. So from where we were funded before to where we're $3.3 million less in actual resources in classrooms. So that's just like the cost of pencils and papers and just those resources, textbooks. They haven't matched up to what inflation is. It's the same dollar amount that we received in like 6 years ago. That's the exact same amount of money we're receiving now. Okay. The other impact is sick leave. So education as a whole has a great, our sick leave is high, it's increasing. So like right now, we're at 15.9% of our staff, and it's not just it's not just teachers, it's everybody who works in education, okay? But the ministry funds us at 5.9 million, but the cost is really 15.6 million. And so when we don't have that, we have a shortfall there, we have to take it out of other areas because we have to have our balanced budget in order for it to be passed by the board. We also have WSIB. Again, there's no increase in funding. What they gave us in 2019 was $3 million, and we're far over $3 million for WSIB. Okay. We also, because there's many buildings that cannot accommodate the number of students that we have, so we have portables in place, and that is underfunded by $1.7 million as well. Then you may have heard about Bill 124, and that's the funding to do the retroactive pay for both QP and educators. You have to pay for that with your board money that you have. No extra money was given to the board for that. So it's a $2.4 million cost to us. Okay, so Aaron Lofts and his team in business services is working through all of that. So the shortfall for our board budget is $24.8 million. Okay, it's a lot of money, and I can tell you this team, business services, together with the superintendents, have been working to how do we manage that type of a shortfall. And so it means less money for classroom resources. There's less funds to decrease class sizes. We have certain class sizes we have to align with. So in primary, classes are staffed at 20:1, and we can go up to 23 in only 10% of the classes. Okay, we have to be in compliance for that. Okay, in kindergarten, our classes are at 29, but we can go up to 32 for 10% of classes. Okay, again, we have to be in compliance with that. The way it is for secondary, it's 23:1. Having said that, you heard from Superintendent Del Sordo about e-learning. Those courses are 30:1. Okay, so again, less money, but more kids in those e-learning courses. We have cut a lot of our central office teaching positions. So a lot of teachers, you may have heard about this, be it curriculum or special education, some of the positions who are support to schools, we've cut those positions because we don't have the funds to actually continue with some of those positions. It's not that we're not going to continue to provide service. We are continue, but with less people than we've had in the past. Okay. So those are some of the pressures. There's like a top level, and I can do my best to answer some questions from you, but we are working like daily on what we can cut to make sure that we can have a balanced budget that gets presented to board.
Nancy, I don't know if you have this information, but I was curious, like some of the shortfalls for like WSIB or like staff sick leave, is that what other school boards are experiencing in terms of like the delta, like that it's that much different? So I was just wondering if that was anything with our policies that we can change at all that might help some of that differential?
I don't think there's anything in policy that we can change around sick leave, but it is consistent across. Okay. So it's not unique to Halton Catholic. I think it is the reality of just the education industry. Mm-hmm. And definitely, I think the impact of some of the pressures that the educators are feeling that are working in the.
Okay.
Right. So.
And the other question I was going to have, because Lauren and I were invited to this like ministry PIC meeting around funding for the code of conduct, provincial code of conduct and school board code of conduct. That that says they're providing $17 million around mental health and parent engagement. Is that going to the board directly? Is that going to the PICs? Like, I was just curious if any of that is going to.
It will be part of our GSN. Okay. So anything for parent involvement is part of our GSN. So when they give a number like 17 million, is that what you said? Yeah. Okay, that's across all boards. Yes. For the province. Yep. So. And Halton Catholic is the least funded board in the province. So we'll get there. Like, so all the money that we received from the ministry came right to CPIC through the programs, right through what we're doing through the parent engagement sessions and that. Okay. So definitely, I know that Emmy coached through policy around code of conduct. So she's doing that work, and she'll definitely probably be bringing that back for feedback from CPIC. But I don't know the exact number, but it's like
it's not going to be meaningful. And
yeah.
Okay. And I was,
we'll do something with it, but when you hear 17 million, you think, wow, how much money is going to come?
Well, I figured like maybe 100,000 at the most for our board.
Yeah. Okay. But if we get the money, we're going to do something meaningful with the
money. So a couple of questions, Nancy. So first off, so shortfall of about 25 million on a total budget of much.
400 and something, 450 million, 450 million.
Yeah, that's a significant percentage. So two questions to follow that. One, I've heard many times that we receive the least funding of any board in the province. What's behind that? Can you explain that?
So well, you get by student enrollment. That's how we get the funding, right?
Right.
So, and we're talking about operational for what's happening in schools, not capital, not building new schools and things like that. Okay, but 80% of that is salary for the employee group. So there's only about 20% that could be for other things. But because of where Halton Catholic is, the area that it's in, we don't have a lot of draw for any of the extra programming that the ministry would. We also have our achievement of our students is the highest in the province. Okay, so anything like for math, for example, many other districts received extra funding for math resource supports for schools. We got the superintendent, but didn't receive any extra teachers to help with the superintendent last year. And I know the board of trustees actually went to the ministry and said, why does Halton Catholic not get any of the extra funding for teachers to support what's happening at the superintendent level? And they said, because your results are good.
Wow.
Right. So like, and there's where we have to like, kudos to everything that's happening that we're able to get the results that we have. We still would want the results even higher if we could. Right. So we're doing it, but we are, and it's considerable. The difference between Halton and Halton District, like Halton Catholic is here and Halton District is like significantly higher than us. It doesn't, but it is what it is.
Right. So the basic, so just so I understand, so the basic funding formula is the same across all the boards.
It is.
Right.
It's all the extra.
Yeah,
PS.
it's the extra programming and whatnot. That's where we fall short.
Well, there's also a bit of a, like real estate, it's location, location, location. So when it comes to there is a part of the funding algorithm, I guess, that does deal with location, location, location. I won't pick on another part of the province, but Halton Catholic is the lowest funded in terms of per pupil. The next one is Halton District. So what's in common is the location that we're in. So they do use a running data set from Stats Canada and other things in terms of, I think we could be honest that there's a certain amount of affluence and good fortune in this area compared to maybe other parts of the province. So that is also part of it as well. But there's a bit of a balancing of some of those things to address that.
I see.
Does that make sense? So there is.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
The word is that the ministry is going to be reviewing some of the data that they've been using, and to try and make that. Stats Canada stuff doesn't come out last week. It's usually over every 10. Well, depending, and they do every 5 years. They do a bit of in terms of some of the key pulse areas they'll add to it, but that's fairly stale in a province and a region that's growing.
Yeah, the economics of the province have shifted dramatically.
Totally.
In the last 5 years.
So if there's going to be a rejigging of that, there'll be a delay.
Yeah.
Right. So
naturally
that'll be seen. And again, it's not something we would wish for, is it? Well, I hope we're going to get worse in terms of our socioeconomic status here. So it's and therefore other parts of the province that do have those challenges would receive more per student.
Gotcha.
So
okay,
it's hard to argue with that in a way.
Last question. So what if you can't balance the budget? Then what?
We're working hard to balance the budget.
What if you don't? No, seriously. Are we going to get to a point? Are we going to get to a point where, not just our board, but boards across the province just simply cannot provide the bare minimum services with what we have? Then what? Like what does the province do?
So boards can submit deficit budgets, right? But then the ministry steps in and they look at it and they'll start to say, then you're going to cut this, and you're going to cut this, and you're going to cut this. So we're working towards getting a balanced budget because we want to be in control of what we offer to Halton Catholic students.
Okay, so I'm stuck back at the part where you were talking about 3.3 million less in terms of what goes to the classrooms. Mm-hmm. So I see it every day because I'm in the school and I hear teachers saying, okay, I have peanuts to work with. So do I want to buy paintbrushes or do I want to buy pencils for the students? And I'm seeing parents get more and more upset about the fact that they're supplementing things that you would think are basic. Like my kid came home yesterday and said, my teacher has no more pencils for the rest of the year. I need to bring some pencils to school. I find that really hard to swallow. So I guess my question is, the students need the supplies, the teachers need the supplies. So what are we cutting or where are we cutting to ensure that the front line doesn't do without, I guess is my question.
What I can say is that the budgets at the school level, so their board budget, which would buy the resources you spoke about, has not been cut. So those budgets for this year, we didn't cut them. Like 23, 24, we didn't cut them. Okay. Those are conversations that the schools need to have with their family school superintendent, because we need to prioritize what you do have. The inflation cost, that's what it is. So basically the same amount of money that they gave us for classroom resources hasn't changed, but the cost of everything has gone up. So there's that shortfall. Okay. Having said that, I was in schools for a long time. You always have an abundance of stuff. It's about managing that stuff too. Okay. So we have to make sure the schools are utilizing. I'm sad to hear that there's schools that are saying we don't have any more pencils and we're not getting pencils. I think that everybody has a little bit to be able to get pencils, because even that, the purchasing of the school supplies that we buy, Staples is the provider. It's not the same prices of when you go into Staples. These are for school level. And so we can work through that. Okay. So I don't want people to be worried about, we're not going to have paper or pencils. We will have paper and pencils in the schools. Okay. There's basic things that we have to have in schools, and so they will have them. Having said that, we also hold everybody accountable to be responsible with the resources that you have. Don't put it all out in September, because you can give it to the kids, but you know what happens when you give it all and you just put it as a free for all, it's going to go, right? Okay. But the messaging is it's tight, not that we don't have enough. It's just we have to be responsible with the resources that we have. Right?
A follow-up, Nancy, not related to that specifically, but I've had parents ask when it comes to, like, we're talking about, raising SGF funds and things like that, and wanting to do things at school, and it always comes down to money, right? Like what pots of money do we have? And so I guess my question is, it's been asked, like, what does a school get? So as a principal, is there like an overview, a high level of like the pots of money that a principal gets? Could that be something that could be either explained to this group, or like, I'm just getting lots of questions from our council about what does it take to run a school? We understand that it's based on population, but as a principal, what are your pots of money and what can those be used for? Is that information that can be shared?
The money that the principal actually manages, the board budget, is based on enrollment. Okay, so it is, so a percentage of the GSN per student goes to board budget. Okay, I'm going to use, because I know you're at St. Christopher's, so a school just over 300 or just under 300. So the board budget is maybe $30,000. Okay, and earmarked. So you've got some, about 4,500 would be for library, 6,000 would be for spec ed. Okay, there's always copying costs, so like printer services and stuff like that. You try to keep it, because like I'll be honest, when I started as a principal, the budget that size, $10,000 was on printing. Well, you're using a 30-year budget for, so let's make sure what we're printing is really valuable. And so we were able to shave that down to about 6,000. Okay, so it's being creative about, but that's all the board budget is. Okay, so the principal would not be managing like any of the high level in terms of salary or the sick leave of that. They wouldn't be managing that. That would be central office staff that does that. The principal of a school that size is about a $30,000 budget. Okay, and then we've done the presentation about what can you use SGF for, and so you can't use SGF for paper and pencils and paint and paintbrushes, because that we're a publicly funded school system. Everybody has access to those.
Janelle?
I had a question around the central board office jobs and spec ed. You said you were cutting part of that. Do you know how many teachers are losing their jobs, or if they're going to be redeployed?
Nobody's losing their position as a central position may no longer. Okay, so I can share this with you. Our special ed department, we have put a lot of money to it, and we still are putting a lot of money to it, but we cannot have the abundance that we have right now. Okay, so it's redeploying those positions. They're going back into schools. So nobody's lost their job. They just made their position may be at a school level instead of central office. So central office positions could be itinerant special education teachers. The consultants are all still intact. I think we have actually more special education consultants this year. So they're going to be by family schools. So each family school is going to have a special education consultant. Then there'll be itinerants attached to them, but at the school level. Okay, so not as many. Okay, but it's not that they've lost their job. They have a job they can do through the rounds, and they'll be in schools in a position.
So every school will have an itinerant.
Not dedicated to them. It'll be shared. They'll be shared. Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, a follow up on that though. If it's meant to be a cost saving measure, but there's no reduction in headcount, if you,
Oh no,
Presumably-
there is reduction in headcount.
okay, but you just said nobody's losing their jobs.
Well, they're because we have positions in schools that they can apply to.
But then that's not a cost saving because you've just moved them from
Well,
point A to point B, but presumably you're not going to give them
No,
a,
We still are going to be in redundancy at elementary. So the
so
others-
people are losing their jobs.
So, and it's based on seniority. Yes.
Okay. That was
Yes.
very,
So, but my thing is central office staff are usually more tenured teachers applying when we have positions at central office. They apply and that, okay? Because we're reducing the number, we did it, not just spec ed, you've got curriculum positions and spec ed positions that we've reduced, okay? And so those people are applying through the rounds, and then we're declaring redundancy again, because we had so much central office staff, we need them in schools.
okay, so so it is still a reduction in headcount.
Yeah.
It just comes out of the
Yeah.
junior pool rather than the senior pool.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's managed through attrition as
Yes.
much as possible.
Yes, and it has happened because we have a population of teachers and educators in our system that are at retirement age. So we're doing that. And we're still dealing with the shortfall from the hiring that we did during COVID when we hired over 100 teachers to get to that 25-to-1 ratio. Yeah, okay.
I have a little bit of an unrelated question, and then Marvin's following up. I think I understand that there are some elementary schools that don't have principals assigned to them for next year. Is that correct? Okay, hold on. My question was just because I feel like I've heard this for the last few years, that there isn't a big pool of people that want to be elementary school principals. What we are doing to kind of address that shortfall, like to encourage people to move into that field.
So we opened up 3 new schools. So we took 3 principals who were servicing schools. Okay, so that's where the gap is right now. And we're looking at the numbers, right? Because to get a vice principal, 0.5, you needed 450 students in a school. At 500, you have your full time. But the schools, there's many schools that are now smaller who may not. So we're trying to balance that out. We also have had the hiring posting for elementary principals in particular. It's been up like the whole time since in the fall we opened it. So every 6-week cycle, we keep we'll do interviews and then we'll push it out again once we finish those. So our pool is tight right now, but we will still be attracting people to those schools. Okay, so we will know probably as we go into the end of June the names of the principals to those schools.
Okay, and the 450 and 500 levels, are those provincially set, or is that our board that sets that?
That's set by our board. We do have because it's enveloped, right? How
Yeah.
you are funded for administrators in schools. We're on the low end, like to get a 0.5 at 450 and a full-time at 500. Most boards it's 650.
That's what I'm wondering from a budgetary
Right, so
perspective,
that-
if we should be looking at
that's
that.
it too, right? But again, we have very large schools too.
Yes,
Okay, so it's relative to our population.
okay,
It's not we don't have an abundance of leadership positions.
Okay. And before I pass it on to Marvin, and then I know that you both had your hands up, the specialty programs where we do receive extra funding for like AP, for example, is that something we can pull down extra funds from the ministry for when we offer AP or IB, or no? We can't, there's no extra funding
It
for that.
actually costs our board.
Okay,
To run AP and IB the way we run, it costs us money. It's
okay,
not funded.
all right. Marvin,
And just a comment, just to add to what Jerry asked. So we've been talking about sick leave, EI rates going up, cybersecurity, and accessibility. And so that's why trustees have put resolutions last year, 4 resolutions last year, and this year 3 or 4 resolutions this year to lobby the ministry for more funding. So the conversation is going on for a long time. And just to another piece of information is that we were at a conference, trustees at a CSTA conference, and this is across the province issue. It's not only with our board. So just to give some more information.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. It's good. Good to know. I was going to use the word lobby, but I didn't want to. Glad we are.
All right, Janelle and Lauren, I saw both your hands shoot at the exact same time, so you guys can start
No,
this.
mine was answered regarding
Okay.
principal. Just
Okay.
wanted to know if Nancy had a name, but it
All
sounds
right.
like she's working on it.
Lauren, did you have?
Okay, so I'm going to come back on the spec ed thing. Sorry. So just a question on that then. So if it's this school, if there's positions within the schools that are potentially being reduced, then like what's the impact of that? Because I know like just over the last 20 years, and I'm talking to my mom who has been an EA for 20 years, she's said to me multiple times, the number of kids who used to qualify for EA support and no longer do is a thing. Kids who used to have 0.75 of an EA now have 0.6, 0.5, and that sort of thing. So I'm just wondering with these cuts that you're talking about, and if it's a reduction in headcount, who ends up bearing the burden of that?
EAs haven't been cut. EAs haven't been cut.
But just generally, if the amount of resource for spec ed is being reduced.
Well, the whole model of our EAs is all on an independence model, right? So it's about how to bring independence for students. So EAs are not allocated to students if they physically can't manage themselves, be it their safety, their well-being. If they can't do that, then they have more EA support and their age, okay? But there's complex needs who would require EA support. If, for example, you're a student with a learning disability, and I was in schools for a long time. Years ago, we did give an EA to a student who might have had a learning disability, but we learned over time that by doing that, we didn't build their independence or teach them how to work through their learning disability, okay? So we've moved away from that model, whereas if you have a learning disability, you need different instructional strategies in the classroom. You need more direct instruction, but it's not an EA sitting beside and not allowing you to be independent, okay? But if you're a student who is either physically has a challenge and needs the EA support to actually function in the school, the EA support is there for the student, okay? That's where we're prioritizing.
Okay, so maybe using EA as an example was not, I was just trying to use it to illustrate a point, but maybe I got a bit lost there. But I guess my question is like, if you're reducing the amount of support at the various levels, whether it's head office or within the schools or whatever, somebody's going to feel the impact of that.
But this is the money that we have. So we have to decide where can we manage it. And so in terms of, I'm going to say, be it reading intervention support or from math curriculum support or spec ed, okay, you're still going to have your consultants. And so their job is going to look different. They've been like high level. And so an itinerant might have been working right alongside a special education resource teacher to teach them the strategies of how you run that department in a school. They're actually, the consultants are going to be working alongside that. So it's just changing the way that a consultant was more overseeing personnel. And we're saying, you're a teacher, you need to be working at the school level with the staff that are working with students. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So we're just changing what it used to look like and how the delivery is.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Nancy, did you have anything else on your report?
No.
Okay.
I think that's it. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll now move to the in-camera portion of our meeting tonight. Great, thank you very much. Item number 6 on our agenda is our trustee update. Marvin?
Thank you. So for Jerry, that word was not lobby, it was petition. That's a better word. Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone.
That's a nice euphemism.
Yeah. Okay, good evening, everyone. So since the last CPIC meeting, we have had one board meeting on May 21st. At the May 21st board meeting, there was a staff update on the on our Best Buddies program, which was presented by the Superintendent of Special Education. It was very well-received presentation, and we're doing some great work over there. There was an action item to invite the past president of Oxter and the current executive director to address the Board of Trustees at that same board meeting, and that motion failed. So the following policies of interest were approved. Policy I-20, integrated accessibility standards. Policy II-33, safe arrival at school program. Policy II-40, bullying prevention and intervention. policy V-05, school accidents, prevention and safety. So all those policies were approved. Staff reports, there was a staff report on Georgetown West Catholic Elementary School. Project budget was presented, very exciting, which will be an action item at the next board meeting. It's good to hear this project taking off. There was a report on the HSTS annual school hour report presented at the same meeting. There are some changes in bell times, and the details are in the report. Trustees have been attending the CCSTA conference last weekend, and some trustees have attended and invited trustees across the nation. There was tremendous amount of networking, sharing the best practices and learning of Catholic education models across the country. You'll be surprised to learn that there are so many different models of Catholic education across the country. Graduations and school events are coming up in June, and trustees will attend. And that's my report. Happy to answer any questions, if at all.
Thank you very much. All right, on to our standing items, updates. First update is from OAPSI. Denise?
Thank you. So as OAPSI is sort of winding down for its events during the school year, we have one more event for our OAPSI reps, which is next Monday. It is our last meeting for the OAPSI reps. Emails have been sent to them in terms of attendance because that is also our AGM. So those emails will continue to be sent out through OAPSI to those reps for their attendance at the AGM. At the end of the month, I will also attend the last Board of Directors meeting for the year. And this year, I know that letters have already gone out from OAPSI to Directors of Education. John, I saw yours. So it's a letter from OAPSI. This year they had a little bit of I think a more comprehensive outline of what OAPSI actually does. So along with the letters to each Director of Education for their participation, continued participation in OAPSI as a board, there is a very comprehensive outline, and I think that's listed there in terms of what OAPSI does, and that was sort of outlined at my year-end report during the Council of Chairs. So it's a bit more of a summary when it comes to Director of Education for each Director of Education. And that's it. I again would like to thank this board, the Board of Trustees, and also the support of CPIC for having OAPSI as a standing item on our agenda. It's very much appreciated, and it continues to put forth, I think, the support of the organization. And I'm looking forward, as I said again, to continuing on as the Halton Director and the Chair of OAPSI for next year. So thank you very much once again.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you for all your hard work. We look forward to seeing you again next year. CPIC subcommittees. Janelle, Emily, do you have an update from the school council?
Nope, nothing at this time.
Parent community engagement, Adosa or Cherish?
No update on the year end, but I did forward something to Lauren for next year's council because I know when I stepped in, I got nothing, no information shared with me. So it's more organized what to expect with this subcommittee.
Great, thank you very much. Lauren, I don't think we have anything for social media. We put our last event on early May.
Yeah, I want to do, I need to post volunteer of the year this week. My work has gotten crazy in the last 2 weeks, so I've just been like trying not to drown. So that's on my list to do this week, is to just make a post about volunteer of the year, and then I'll do something towards the end of the year for just like, thanks for a great year or something along those lines.
And maybe early in September, we can earmark to just can we advertise the names of the reps?
Yeah, I was gonna do that as well. We didn't take a picture of them like we did at last year's, which was an oversight, but I can still just make a nice post and just say, here's the incoming members.
Great. CPIC representation on board committees. Is there an update at all from the bullying prevention?
We had a meeting. Okay, I'm doing this off the cuff because again, swamped. Okay, so we had a meeting 2 weeks ago. Like I presented at Council of Chairs, the graphics are not totally finalized, but are well on their way to being finalized. There's still some small minor changes that are coming through. The goal is going to be to launch them in September. So I have a sort of standing date with Andrea Swindon to go through that, and we'll work out the actual strategy for launching those come September. We have one more meeting for the bullying committee next week. I think it's the 14th. I can't remember. There's one more meeting coming up where we're basically just going to go through goals for next year and do some goal setting for the bullying committee for the next year to try to give the committee a little bit more direction, because that's a committee that most of the members turn over on for each school year. So that's about it.
Great. Thanks. Any questions for Lauren? And I guess we're going to go through that feedback with Andrew when we get to section 8. Any feedback from the meeting? Mental health, Emily, was there a meeting at all since the last CPIC meeting?
No, there's nothing.
Okay, thank you. All right, on to discussion items. The first one up is the feedback from the Council of Chair meetings. As you recall, we asked for feedback on 2 topics. Number 1 was the bullying graphics that were put together. And the second was with respect to CPIC in terms of ideas for future events or how they can be supported better. So Andrea is sharing the feedback. Sorry, Andrea, you're going to send it? And she can send it out afterwards. So is this summary of both, Andrea, or is this just?
Yeah, it was both subcommittees' questions.
Okay. Okay. I think that would be helpful. And then we can take that, like whoever's on the parent community engagement next year can take any ideas there from there. Or the school council, if it's really, I can't read the comments either. If any of them are school council related.
Yeah, well, I'm just noting column B there. I believe that question was, what external speaker topics would you like to see next year? And just skimming those answers, that's mental health, online safety, cyber safety. That's pretty clear in those handful of answers. And then I can't remember.
See, like how many council chair meetings?
Yeah, I think that's what that was. Oh no, that was Let's Connect.
Okay.
So it was like these 3 gig, would you like more?
Yeah, no, 3 is good.
And then in person versus virtual, or
That's clearly virtual.
regardless. And then.
Oh, that was the WhatsApp.
Did you find the WhatsApp groups? And then the last one was, how else can we support you? Kind of concerned about the last one. I still felt reluctant to reach out to support it. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Okay, that might just be a change in some of our messaging that we do at the first Council of Chairs. Just to share a little bit of good news, I put this in our WhatsApp group chat today, but just to kind of just put it here on the record, I ran into somebody today at a birthday party she's one of the council chairs, and we were just making some small talk back and forth, and she actually highlighted how much she loved the Let's Connect sessions and how much she loved the WhatsApp groups and how more connected to the whole HCDSB community that she felt over it, just how helpful they were, how fast she was in being able to get answers from that Nancy was able to provide from the board point of view. And they had questions about like logistics. Can we do this? Can we do that? Asking other chairs for ideas around fundraisers or school events, that kind of thing. She said it like really, really, really changed how she saw council run this year. And she's been on council for many years. And she said this past year was like pretty well the most supported that she's felt. So it was just a really nice kind of good news story that happened at a birthday party pickup. So I just wanted to kind of share that was kind of a nice thing. And it kind of was just like, yay, it was a nice way to end the year. Some of the efforts that we've made this year have actually kind of stuck, and they've stuck the landing. So that wasn't just a nice thing I wanted to share.
Okay, item 8.2 is CPIC meeting dates. If for next year, at the back of the minutes from the last meeting, there is the list of CPIC meeting dates. It's been updated since then? Okay, then don't read this. Read the updated one. Okay, Andrew, can you point out which ones have been changed or? Okay, but it's still the 19th? Let me just check on here. Okay, yes, it is. 23rd, 14th. Okay, so the May one is May 21st. So Andrea, do you know why that one has changed? Because we specifically asked the 14th because when it happens after Victoria Day weekend, soccer has started, baseball started. Nancy?
Fortunately, we are at a conference that week, so we had put the 14th as the date for the council chairs, but then you're not going to have a senior representative. So I think we need a senior representative to be at that meeting. So that's why we've actually just bumped it to the 21st.
Okay, all right. I will point out that all the council chair meetings are in person next year, including the February one. And the only one that the principals will be invited to is the first one, the October one. The reason for that being that most of the information that is discussed, if it's not council specific, if it's about board policy, board initiatives such as the multi-year strategic plan, they've already been part of those discussions. So we thought it might be more productive for everybody. So if you guys could please pencil in these calendar dates into your calendar for now. Thank you, Andrea. Make sure that you try to book around those dates. That would be greatly appreciated.
And I think just one thing we have to make sure we do with our messaging for next year, and I'm just saying it so that because things live in my head and then they disappear. So one thing I really want to make sure we push for next year is getting the messaging out to the councils that if your chair or co-chair can't make it, nominate someone else from your council to go. And I don't know if we want to look at, I think we had talked about this and maybe doing some sort of like sign in or something to make sure that each school has representation at the council of chairs. We're putting it on for them. They should be there, but I understand people have commitments and a chair can't make it. I would rather have somebody from the council go to represent the school and bring the information back than just have that school miss out entirely.
Janelle?
I totally agree with that, Lauren. So just going back to the dates. So the first one, the October one, that's okay. Principals will be invited to that one. Not the last one either, just the first one. Okay. So for the ones that are all on the 19th and they're by region, are we all doing the same thing? So like whatever we decide to do, obviously it's not going to be a guest speaker because they can't be in 4 places at once. But maybe Nancy, do you have something?
So first of all, what I want to say to the group, we're going to need representation from CPIC at all the meetings. So the one we get together in the fall, we'll decide who represents each of the regions and that because there's a couple people that, well, Jerry's position is at large, right? So we just need to make sure. Okay. But if the topics have, if there's presentations, then what we set up at the school location is like Microsoft Teams to go up. So then, for example, if we had someone like M. Del Sordo presenting to the council chairs, and we'll do it from our location through Teams.
Do all of those.
So then everybody's location. So everybody will follow the same agenda. Okay. And then we'll do it a Teams meeting in each of those locations for that the presenters would just speak. But just as when you sort of break out into discussion groups, then you can do it within just the small group within that.
It'd be nice if I don't know if it's harder for you, but it'd be nice if, like, let's say there were 3 guest speakers that we could sprinkle them around. So like not everything is completely virtual for one of the families of schools.
Well, because when we did the math session with Superintendent Skripik, okay, so like we were there and they were presenting to us, but everybody else was in their home doing it. So, but what I would say is if it's central office staff presenting, they'll have a location, but not necessarily they're going to be at the locations where the meetings are taking place. Okay. We'll work through that though.
Okay.
Logistics. What I would say just for CPIC, put the dates in so you have it. And the communication that will go out in September, once councils are set, we'll have these dates and we'll put that. If you can make sure you mark that there has to be representation from your council.
Okay, great.
It's not just for the chairs, a representative.
Great. Any other questions, Jay?
Yeah, just around the decision to not have the principals or admin from all the schools there at each of the meetings. I just wonder if that's worthy of a broader discussion.
I think it's certain. Well, I think we consider this to be for the chairs. It's a council meeting for the chairs. So number one, that's the target group, and number two, like I said, a lot of the topics that are being presented are ones that they've already been presented on at their own staff meetings. So it doesn't seem to be a great use of their time as well. Lauren, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, that was the feedback, is that a lot of the principals almost get not exactly frustrated, but that it's just repeated information for them. So if it's just kept more to the councils, then it becomes a more intimate thing and more directed to them, and then we can make sure that they're getting the information that they need.
I think what's potentially lost is that opportunity to network. I mean, again, if all it is an information dump, I don't think we're hitting the mark. I don't think we're doing the right thing with our council of chairs meetings. So granted, I know a lot of the content will be repeated for the principals. However, just that opportunity to go around the room and reconnect with admin you haven't seen in a while, and just fostering the sense of community as well, I think is one part of the council of chairs meetings, as well as when we do have structured group discussions, that kind of thing. I think it's important to have admin at the table alongside with their council chairs and council chairs to hear from different perspectives, different schools, elementary, high school, to get that more fulsome cross section of input. So while I appreciate it's not 100% best use of their time, I question what are we losing by going that way.
And I guess I agree with you with the networking piece, because I like that piece of the meetings as well. But I was thinking that also with the principals not being there, kind of like the Let's Connect sessions, it becomes a much more open discussion. You're going to be less likely to talk about things with in front of maybe your principal if it's something that, you know, maybe is an area that you do not agree on, or that they're, go ahead, Janelle.
I feel like this conversation has come full circle, because when I was the newbie at this table, my question was, why do we call this council of chairs when everybody is there, which I don't have a problem with, and the feedback is that I've seen this already, or I've heard this already, or this is repeated information. So my question was, what is the original intent of council of chairs? What was it meant to be when it was created? And have we strayed from that somehow to it being information out versus, you know, networking and connecting and brainstorming and you know, working together and all of that? And my thought back then was, if there's no appetite to change the structure of council of chairs, then I'm going to find another way to connect with my people. So that's where Let's Connect came from. That's where WhatsApp groups came from, was if we're not getting it at council of chairs, and if there's a need to connect on a more day-to-day, more frequently, then this is how we're going to accomplish that. So is it the agenda that's the problem? Because like Jerry says, if it was stuff that principals would like to be a part of, or they haven't heard it already, then I think it would be a good use of their time. But if it continues to be things that they've already maybe heard at another table, then it's not good use of their time. So maybe we need to look at what we actually put on the agenda for council of chairs. Just my 2 cents.
And again, the target audience, if we will, if it's the council of chairs, the chairs themselves, a part of what is the really is about what they're getting out of it. And again, I would suggest part of what they're getting out of it is that opportunity to sit shoulder to shoulder with the admin, and have those conversations. Now, I mean, those meetings are not a place to air beefs or personal concerns they have back at their home school. Let's Connect provides a bit of a venue for that, without the admin presence. So I think we've got a solution for that. So again, part of it is the principals giving of themselves to the council. And if we talk about what is the purpose of a council's job is to, through discussion and discernment, go away, better than when they arrived, for the better of their councils back at the home school. So again, if it's just talking heads, then again, I think we're missing the mark, because that's not what a council is for, right? Councils sit, they discuss, they
I guess I'm thinking more like that they were discussing topics that they've already, seen that presentation, or it might be something that's specific to parents, that, digital learning or what have you. But I'd be interested in hearing everybody's opinion, because this does not have to be set in stone. And obviously, if there are concerns, we can definitely revert back to the other way. We could try doing some meetings with and some meetings without. But I'd be interested in hearing everyone else's thoughts. Emily, Janelle, Cherish. Anybody have thoughts?
And it's more of a comment. I did join a couple of the Let's Connect, and I found it very informative for me as a new member. So I definitely think that that should still be on the table. In terms of the councils of chairs, I agree. Like, I'm kind of lost in the purpose or direction where it's supposed to, what it's supposed to do. But again, that's like just because I'm new, so maybe I still need to figure that out as well. But that's my take on it.
Cherish?
I guess goes back to depending on the agenda. So if there's things that we can collaborate with our principals, because it is busy year, sometimes I don't even talk to my principal until I see him at our council meetings. So it gives us an opportunity to actually sit down, reconnect, and even just network with other former principals our school had. So it's always good to, hey, what are we doing, and get ideas from a principal's perspective, not just the council of chairs perspective.
And I guess I don't know if you guys noticed, but the last meeting, there were a lot of principals there and not a lot of council chairs. And I think for principals, that's probably frustrating. Emily, did you, or Ada, did either of you have anything you wanted to add, your thoughts?
I'm kind of on the fence in terms of the principals required or not. I think it's nice. I know that at our school, we have lots of things going on. You know, in the evenings, we have, whether it's our council meetings, whether it's an event or, you know, football game, whatever. So the principals and the admins are at that. And I guess as a parent, I can kind of sympathize when it's just another thing that they have to go to when they could be at home with their families. So I think sometimes it's not necessary. So I'm okay with the first meeting that they come. I don't know. That's kind of my thoughts on it.
Ada or Angelo? I don't know, Angelo, if you've had any thoughts.
Yeah, no, just some general comments was, well, I think the last one is just because weather related. It's too nice of a day, I think, for some people. But in general, like, so the first council of chairs that I attended, I took advantage in the sense of to network, to brainstorm with other chairs from other schools to get ideas for fundraising. And that's the way I looked at it. And it's more, I think it should be the approach of having, if the chair can't come, have someone else on the council, someone with a fresh pair of eyes. So then they have that they bring that enthusiasm to everybody. And that kind of gets the blood flowing when you see people and they want to circulate because this is a new experience for them. So it's more, there could be a sense to encourage newer people to come in, maybe to just inject that enthusiasm. That might help.
Ada, did you have any thoughts on either way, principals attending or not? Nancy?
The one in the fall, that first one is really important. The principals are there together because a lot of times there's new members on council, new chairs. Okay, so it's setting that stage before they are actually going to take on that responsibility. The other meetings, there's more principals than there are chairs. So I think it's around the communication that we get out early in the year to them to say, this is a meeting and there needs to be representation because it's important information. Like together, we've decided the agenda as CPIC, what are going to be those topics. Sometimes it's information from board level to get out to parents. Sometimes it's community partners coming to do presentations. If we think about it, we didn't do that for the May meeting, but we definitely did it for the fall meeting and the winter meeting. So it's what we decide or what you decide as CPIC members as what you think is most important to share with them. You have to also understand that we're the only board that has council of chair meetings. Okay, so the mandate and what's in the legislation for the requirement for CPIC is 4 meetings a year. We have almost monthly meetings. We have all our subcommittee work. We did 6 parent engagement sessions. Like you've done a ton of work, and it's good work and it's important work. Let's not, I don't think we should get hung up on who's coming to that meeting, but know what the purpose of that meeting is. So the first one's important, that there are principals and council chairs together to set the tone for the year. But the focus, and we need that feedback from the council chairs. What is the information that we want to share in February? What's the information we want to share with them in May that's important that they bring back to their school community, or what they need in order to do their role as council members effectively to support their school community? And I hear you about the importance of networking. I don't know if it always lends itself, because really there's more principals there than there are parents. Right? And I do think it's around the weather and that, but we couldn't honor. So this superintendent conference that we have is usually in April, but it's taking place for some reason next year that week. So that's why we had to push it out to May 21st.
I appreciate that perspective, Nancy. I mean, the thing I would say about the attendance by the council chairs themselves, I think that's a separate matter, and we need to tackle that as well. But again, I think it sounds like it comes back to, you know, revisiting the purpose of our council chairs meetings and what do we want to get out of them. So I don't know that we have to solve this today necessarily. I mean, I know they're
Agreed. I mean, I think as long as we know the first
when
one.
it comes to the invitations to like, the placeholders in the calendars, I would suggest still include the principals in that, and then if there's a new direction, that it could be provided after the October one. Lots of time till February, right? Because if they're coming to the October one anyway, my suggestion would be continue to include them for now, and then we can always visit.
Lauren, what are your thoughts?
I don't, I'm also in two minds of it. Definitely having them for the first. I don't know if it's like Janelle said, if it's information that they already have, then there's no point wasting their time. But if it's actually going to be more council focused, where we're not just repeating stuff that the principals have already had, where we actually make it material that's more, that would be my preference, is to make council of chairs more of make it for the actual councils. Let them network. Let's talk about topics that are important to them. Let's bring speakers that actually affect them as parents, that then they can bring information back to their schools. Let's talk about initiatives we're doing in schools that parents need to know about and that they care about. That's what's on their thing. So if we brought like a speaker on cybersecurity cybersecurity and like online safety for teenagers, if we brought that speaker to council chairs, you're going to get every chair showing up and probably bringing half their council with them. So I don't know, my view is, my thing is that we should try to make it more for them, information that's for them. That might not have been the best guest speaker example, I get that, but just as in, just trying to illustrate a point, it was like, let's make it topics that they actually care about instead of just talking at them for 70 minutes.
Okay, I agree that we maybe don't have to make a decision today, but I wouldn't want to leave it too long because everyone does set their calendars, you know, in September for the year. So my 2 cents would be, let's try it and see how it goes. At least one meeting, maybe two without them. But I'm happy to leave it to September if people want more time to think about it.
I think my biggest thing is I just want school representation from each school. Like, I would actually rather have a principal and nobody from council than nobody at all.
You'd rather have a principal and nobody from council?
Well, if nobody from council can go, but the principal can, I'd rather have the principal attend than have nobody from that school attend at all.
Okay, but they shouldn't have to, because it's for, this material is supposed to be for the council
I
chairs.
agree, but like honestly, the attendance at the last council chairs was like,
yeah, I almost wonder with the May one, if we need to start moving it higher up or.
Yeah, that's
what.
my point.
It's a terrible time of year.
Last year was the same thing.
Yeah.
The attendance was great for the fall one, and even the online one, and then the May one was terrible. And I think it's just, the weather's nice, activities start to, start up, and then parents are torn. Yeah.
You have your volunteer of the year awards there, so maybe that distribution isn't at council chairs. Maybe it is that it goes to, like, I don't mind doing it. I could go visit, or together with the co-chairs, go visit the school where we're recognizing the parent, rather than making that part of the meeting, because it's that wrap up of the year of what you're doing at the council chairs. Like, that reporting that was shared about all the things that we've covered, but do we need that because we do a year report? So it's same what the purpose of that meeting is. Okay. And this isn't something we have to tackle tonight. We can, Andrew and I can look at the dates and think if we can bring other dates. It's just, it turns busy, right? The calendar's pretty busy already set up for next year.
Okay. All right, then let's move on to our last discussion item. We'll try to make this brief. With respect to goal setting for 2024, 2025, I guess the primary question is, do we want to have similar committees, subcommittees that next year that we had this year, for the purpose of then going to each member and saying, you know, send me your top choices of which committee you'd like to be involved with next year. So school council support, parent community engagement, and we had social media this year. Is there any other subcommittees that any of you think would be helpful for a CPIC to have, or any of those that we have that maybe you don't think are needed? We're good with the three? Okay. Okay, Jerry?
I guess the only thing I'd perhaps bring up is bylaws. I don't know that we necessarily need a subcommittee for it. We did what we did prior, but they needed an overhaul. But I know now, just with I think with some recent events, it's kind of prompted a look at the bylaws, right, by our board parliamentarian. So I'd love to hear what the feedback from that is. And again, I'm not sure if it constitutes the need for.
Or maybe that's like
subcommittee,
you know, like a board subcommittee, like almost like a representative that can take that on that subset.
Yeah. So I just kind of throw that out there as a potential thing
Okay.
that might be on the plate for next year.
Okay.
I mean, bylaw reviews should be an ongoing thing, frankly, but.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Designate
just
someone.
as a small extension to that, and I'm just saying, I happened to talk to Janelle and Emily about it about 2 weeks ago in an unrelated conversation. Was one of the things that we found, I think Janelle, you brought it up, was that all of the schools have their own bylaws and they're like all over the map. Like some of them are like super legalese and some of them are like, hey, show up. So it's like this kind of like, there's quite a lot of disparity between them. So I think we had talked about like maybe having some sort of subcommittee that just creates at least a shell and be like that can then go to the schools and just be like, here, like make this your own, but here's a template to work from. So there's at least some consistency, because right now there's zero consistency school to school, and some schools I think just have something that's like scribbled on the back of a napkin and they call it a
Agreed.
day.
I think that could be part of the school support committee. That could be one of their initiatives. for
Isn't
them.
there templates in the
Janelle says no.
handbook?
It's an example of a school's bylaws. But just for like food for thought, our school didn't really have the best. And it was one of our sort of goals is to like look at ours and kind of make them into something a little bit more meatier. So with the help of our principal, we sort of touched on other principals and said, hey, would you be willing to share yours? So we got, 12 or so examples, and they ranged from very layman's terms to very, very legal type written, which that's not my forte. So when we took it on as a council, we wrote ours it's very plain English that anyone can understand. And some of them include everything but the kitchen sink. For us, for example, elections, how do elections happen at your school? We're a very small school. It's like, hey, you're taking notes, you're going to be the chair. Whereas in other schools, they get, a few people coming forward wanting, so they actually hold a real election where, so the election process was like 4 pages long. What do you do if there's a tie? How many minutes do you give them to present? We didn't have any of that. So it was an eye-opening exercise for me to look at those and go, wow, like they are all over the map, but they also suit the school, right? So I'm not sure that a one size fits all would work for everyone, but I think that it's a good exercise to see maybe what should be included and how you organize it or how it's laid out.
Or maybe even adding more examples to kind of cover off the different.
Yeah. So, we could enhance the resource handbook maybe to include some different options. But yeah, they were very all over the map. So we kind of went middle of the road.
Do we want to discuss any kind of goals for next year, or do you want to leave the subcommittees to do that on their own?
I guess just particularly, I guess for like the outgoing members, just does any, or just even just for those of us who are coming back, just any high level goals that you think that CPIC should be looking to accomplish over the next year, and then we can kind of think about it over the summer and that kind of thing, and just to try to do a little bit of direction setting now before we reconvene in September.
Well, I think the ones that were just mentioned, for sure. So, revisiting purpose of council chairs, revisiting our own bylaws, and taking a look at how we can improve the local school council bylaws, whether that's a template or some other mechanism to help unify. So those three things for sure.
Something else I think that sort of came out of, again, our election process to get new members at this table is I think we need to do a better job of reaching out. So I don't know if that means that we lend ourselves to councils, like give them an opportunity to put us on their agenda maybe at one of their school councils and say, like, we're willing to come and chat with you about what CPIC is about, what the role is about. Like, I know it would be more work for us, and I understand that it's time out of our evenings, but I think it's really important to try to market what this is about, because I feel like election comes, the information goes out, and maybe it's again the process. Like, I'm not sure people really understand what they're getting into or really understand what we're about. Like, I know people understand that CPIC puts on things, like we have this guest speaker, etc., but I'm not sure that people really understand that they could be utilizing us more or better. So like, I had a chair say to me, would you be willing to come to one of our council meetings and just observe how we run our meetings, give us some feedback, or, talk a little bit about CPIC and what sorts of things you can offer us. So I don't know if that's something that would be appetizing to this group, but I do think when it comes to the election process piece, I think we need to do a better job of marketing. And I have a few ideas around that, but I just think that maybe it's the setup. Like, maybe we don't ask people to submit bios until they come to this information session, because so many people came and said, I want to rewrite my bio. I know so much more now. I mean, it's on people to do their research, to go to the website, to, do your homework. But I think that people came to that information session and had a whole new level of understanding, and were like, I want to change my bio because I think I undersold myself. So maybe we need to just look at that process and switch it up a bit.
We have to keep what CPIC is about. CPIC is providing support to Catholic school councils and promoting parent engagement. And I think you've done a great job this year. It's looked very different. The Let's Connect sessions, the WhatsApp, so you're networking, and the amount of parent engagement sessions we've done, we've never had that many, and they've been so well attended. So we have to celebrate the positive things we've done this year, and that you're a great committee in doing the work. Not everybody who comes on may be willing to do that work. So I just think we need to be aware of what our mandate is, right? It has a specific goal. It is to support Catholic school councils and to promote parent engagement.
And advocate to the board. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. Again, voice of the parent, right? Yeah.
Any other last thoughts? Okay. Oh, sorry, Ada. No?
I just wanted to second what she said. I actually, when I got elected, I thought we actually meant to attend at least some of the meetings that the councils have in the schools, so they actually know what it's all about. Because I've heard, for example, we in our school meetings, I've had our trustee come to our meetings and talk to us. So I was like, oh, that's what a trustee does. But what does the CPIC person do, apart from, like you said, if we have? So it would be actually a very good idea if we have Even if it's once a meet, like if, like say I'm representing Milton, at least one meeting if possible in the school year. So
I
that
agree.
we get to see it.
I did that the first year I was on. It was
Yeah,
very
that's what I
interesting
thought you
to
told me
see
when I
how
came.
each council operates completely differently at each school. But yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I mean, we could talk about other ways of promoting, because again, I kind of mentioned it in the chat earlier today. I remember like when I first joined committee, one of the things that occupied us the most was trying to get the word out as to who CPIC is, what CPIC is, and who we are and what we do. And we've come such a long way. So to Nancy's point of celebrate the success, because it's huge. It's huge from what's happened from that many years ago to now. So, but yeah, I mean, just through some other forms of advocacy and a bit of PR, like we created those beautiful brochures, remember? You know, even just getting those distributed to school councils, information awareness, you know, like that'll just help the whole thing along. But so in many ways.
And I think we should be selfish and steal a few minutes at the first council chair meeting and maybe discuss what we do, what our role is, what you can use us for. I mean, that's a great opportunity. That's when we get the highest attendance of all of our chairs. And you're setting off the tone right at the beginning of the school year. Okay, any other?
Maybe we just keep encouraging people to follow us on social media. So like, you know how you did it last year? Just bounce on it. Every time we have a meeting, let everyone, please follow us on da-da-da. And like you said, if you need more help, if we have something going on, make sure we blast it out on social media. You know what I mean? Like, so they'll see what's happening. And, you know, yeah, but we did, it's been a wonderful job this year overall, but thank you.
All right, any other business or future agenda items anyone would like to raise?
Yes, one item. Thank you, Jen, for all your service. This is your last meeting, right? It is, yes. So, yeah, I know. We hope you come back the next term. Yeah, just personally, I want to thank you. I mean, we were co-chairs once upon a time, and you've done a great job. You've been a terrific contributor to this committee all the way along. And just on behalf of everybody and the whole school community, thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. I'm sad to leave. And thank you, Cherish. I hope you come back in a couple of years. And I would love to have stayed on. I wish I could. It's just too much with my new position, but I've really enjoyed my time and I'm very disappointed to have to leave, but thank you very much. All right, closing prayer. Heavenly Father, as we come to the end of our time together, we thank you for what has been accomplished here today. May the matters discussed serve as a catalyst to move us forward and cause us to advance and see growth in all areas of our lives. May we leave here recognizing you are the God of all wisdom and you are willing to lead us forward. We pray in the name of Jesus. Amen. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending.